There's a certain kind of person who feels a small, quiet relief the moment a plan falls through. Someone texts, "Hey, can we reschedule?" And instead of disappointment, there's this soft exhale. Finally, a whole evening handed back to you. You'd never say that out loud. You'd type back, "Aw, no worries, next time," with a little heart. But inside, something in you just relaxed. And if you've ever caught yourself doing that, then quietly wondered, what's wrong with me? Why don't I want what everyone else wants? Stay with me. Because the answer might be the opposite of what you've been told your whole life. Today, on Cognitive Psychology, we're stepping into the mind of the person who loves staying home, the one the world quietly calls boring or antisocial or a little closed off, and the one science calls something completely different. Here's what most people get wrong. They assume you stay home because you're avoiding something. People, life, the world out there. But you're not running from people. You're running toward yourself. And here's the part nobody says to you. That pull toward home might not be a weakness at all. It might be a quiet kind of self-awareness that most people never develop. It's not fear. It's not laziness. For a lot of people who love being home, going out doesn't feel scary. It just feels expensive. Not with money, with energy. You're not falling behind everyone else. You might just be reading your own needs more honestly than they read theirs. Think of it like a battery. Some people, the ones we call extroverts, charge up in the noise. The crowd, the movement, the buzz of a full room fills them back up. But for you, it works in reverse. Even a good night out, even people you genuinely love, slowly drains the bar. And home is the only charger that actually works. Psychologists describe something called optimal arousal theory, the idea that every nervous system has its own comfortable level of stimulation. Some people need a lot to feel alive. Others feel best with far less. Research suggests this isn't a habit you picked up or a flaw you need to fix. It may be closer to how your system was wired from the start. We live in a world that runs at a volume some nervous systems were never built for. So when you turn down an invitation and feel relief instead of regret, that's not something broken in you. That's your system telling the truth. Which brings us to the first thing almost nobody sees. Other people, even the ones you love, can be genuinely exhausting. Not because you don't care about them, but because being around people means constantly reading them, their tone, their mood, the thing they're not saying out loud. You do it automatically, all day, and it quietly burns fuel the entire time. Home is the one place you can finally set that down. The second you close the door behind you, the world's noise stays outside, and your nervous system gets to breathe again. But it goes deeper than rest. Out there, the world is unpredictable. Loud strangers, plans that change last minute, small talk with someone who isn't really listening to your answer. At home, you decide everything. The lighting, the sound, who gets to come in. And if you grew up somewhere chaotic, a house where you had to read the room before you walked into it, where you learned to brace before you learned to relax, then this part hits differently. The reason home feels so peaceful is that all the people who bring chaos aren't in it. You choose who walks through that door. Home wouldn't feel safe if just anyone could enter. For maybe the first time in your life, there's a space that runs entirely on your rules. For someone who feels things intensely, that control isn't a luxury. It's how you keep your own peace intact. But the next reason is the one people almost never admit to out loud. Stay with me, because this is where it stops being about the house at all. The world tells you that if you're home alone this much, you must be lonely. But there's a quiet skill some people have that most never develop. They actually enjoy their own company. They don't fear their own thoughts. They can sit with themselves and still feel whole. And once you can do that, something shifts. You stop needing anyone else to make you happy, because you already do that yourself. That's not sad. That's not hiding. Studies have linked a genuine enjoyment of solitude with higher creativity and self-awareness. The ability to know, with real clarity, what drains you and what fills you back up. Most people go their whole lives without ever learning that about themselves. But the homebodies, they tend to learn it early. And there's a version of this that gets richer, not lonelier, with age. Ask anyone who's spent years learning this, and they'll tell you the same thing. The older you get, the more you find yourself wanting less to do with the noise and more to do with the quiet. It's not bitterness, it's clarity. You start waking up early, not because you have to, but because there's this stretch of morning before the world wakes up and goes mad. The coffee, the window, the light coming up slow, the cat sleepily saying good morning. Some people spend 40 years dealing with the public, and the older they get, the less they want to deal with anyone at all, and they've finally earned the right to admit it. That's not you shutting down. That's you finally choosing the version of life that doesn't exhaust you. But here's the distinction that changes the whole picture, and it's the one thing I need you to actually hear. Solitude and loneliness are not the same thing. Loneliness is something that happens to you. You can feel it in a crowded room, surrounded by people who don't really see you. Solitude is something you choose. One drains you. The other one, quietly, hands your strength back. So let me ask you the honest question, the one most videos are too gentle to ask. Is your home nourishing you? Or, some days, is it protecting you from being seen? Because both can be true, and there's no shame in either. But it's worth knowing which season you're in. One is rest. The other is worth being tender with. And for most of the people watching this, deep down, you already know the answer is peace. That's why home was never really about the walls. Home isn't a place you got stuck in. It's a state of mind you finally get to return to. So if you're one of these people, here's what I want you to carry out of this. Stop apologizing for the relief you feel when a plan falls through. That relief is information. It's your system telling you exactly what it needs. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing a quiet Saturday over a loud one. When the world outside gets this loud, peace stops being a luxury. It becomes something you genuinely need. And the goal was never to hide forever. It's that when you do step back out, to see the one friend, to sit in the sun, to do the thing that matters, you get to choose it, instead of being dragged into it. Safe and still growing. Those were never opposites. And the few people you do let in, the ones who make it through that door, notice how much you give them. The loyalty, the attention, the way you catch the small things everyone else is too distracted to see. Your circle may be small. It was never meant to be shallow. Because the truth is, the people who love staying home aren't missing out on life. They're living it on purpose, with less noise and a lot more meaning. So before you close this, ask yourself one question, and keep asking it long after this video ends. What does my nervous system actually need right now? Not what you're supposed to want, what you actually need. Tell me down in the comments, which part of this felt uncomfortably familiar? Which reason sounded the most like you? I read them, and if this made you feel a little more understood, send it to the one person who'd finally get it too. That's how this quiet corner of cognitive psychology grows. One person who needed to hear it, passing it to the next. Thank you for spending this time here. Take care of your peace, and I'll see you next time.